Welcome to Our House, the only complete on-air resource for your home ownership needs. Now, here's the host of Our House, Peter Hunt.
Good morning and welcome to Our House. This is Peter Hunt, and the show is brought to you by the all-new HuntRealEstate.com, where everything is truly easier for your real estate and home ownership experience. HuntRealEstate.com is powered by Hunt Real Estate ERA here in Buffalo, Niagara, all across upstate and even out to Phoenix, Arizona. This show is also brought to you by Hunt Mortgage. I encourage you to call them today, 633-3700, and ask one of our skilled mortgage consultants to work with you to find the lowest rate and closing costs for your particular home financing needs and wants. And that's guaranteed, by the way. And also ask about our many exclusive programs, including our pre-purchase commitment that allows you at no cost or risk to effectively enter the market to find your next home with cash. And I can't tell you how important that is today in our highly competitive real estate market. That is in terms of homes available. The inventory is low. Continues to be low, and we don't see any real end of that in sight. So when you enter that market, you want to enter with as much power as you can, and certainly cash is the most powerful way to compete for a home. The next best thing, and actually equivalent to that, is an actual mortgage commitment. There's only one place where you can get a pre-purchase commitment, a commitment without a house. All you need is the house, and that's at Hunt Mortgage, 633-3700, and that's always personalized, customized service that promises to knock your socks off. So check out our low rate guarantee, low rate and closing costs, I should say. And don't forget about the first ever 24/7, 365 real estate hotline, the Hunt Hotline, which we've recently enhanced, which gives you access to all available information about any property listed for sale in our region here and all across upstate and even out to Phoenix, Arizona. All you have to do is dial 716-631-4800, enter the street number of the house you want to know about, no matter whose listing it is. Just you drive by number 62 Elm Street, just punch in 62. Doesn't matter whose listing it is, and the hotline will prompt you with a choice of street names. Select the one you'll want. You'll then hear a brief description, and you'll be texted a link to a dedicated website on that particular property, all automatically, just that fast, anytime in any market we serve on any listing, whether it's ours or any other brokers. And it's really important because let's say you drive by a house and you like it and you write the number down, and then you go home and you go online and you try to find it. Or even if you pull over and go onto your phone and look it up on one of the third-party websites, it takes time. All you have to do is dial 631-4800 and everything else is automatic, and it's extremely fast, much faster than even going to your phone. Hunt Real Estate is the official real estate and relocation provider for our hometown professional teams, the Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Rochester Americans. Great victory last night for a preseason victory for the Bills. It was great to see that. I enjoyed watching most of it, including seeing Jack Nicklaus's grandson score a touchdown. It was great to see, so kind of fun. We are live here at WBN 9:30 a.m., and if you'd like to participate in today's show, you can call us here in the studio with any questions or comments you may have about any aspect of real estate or about whatever we're talking about at the time. And our number here is 803-0930 or 1-800-616-9236 or star 930. Those are all free calls. So join us on the air here at our house. We have a very special show for you today. We're going to introduce my first guest first, and we'll move on in a little while. But my guest here in the studio today, my first guest, is Dr. Gary Olson. Dr. Olson is the president of Daemen College. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Peter. Thank you for inviting me.
It's good to have you back. You haven't been on in a while. As a matter of fact, it's been way too long. Tell us, first of all, a lot of our listeners may not know who you are, and they may not know much about Daemen. So start with how you got here.
Well, I've been in higher education for 40 years now. I'm now in my sixth year as president of Daemen. Before that, I've been an administrator and a professor at many universities across the country. I came to Daemen as someone who the board wanted to help raise the national visibility of the college. As you know, we in Western New York are in a unique geographic area in that we have 23 colleges and universities right here. That's very unique. There are a few places like that around the country, but generally not. I think of Boston, the Cambridge area, this one, but not many. So sometimes it's difficult for people to distinguish between the many colleges, the DUvilles and the Villa Marias and so on. Daemen, though, has a very strong identity, and I wanted to work off of that identity to show people that this is a college that really does stand out among the many others.
You know, it's interesting. You know that I've had a long history with Daemen, which has been a very good thing for me personally, and I think certainly for my company and also for others that we've been able to work with along the way, I hope anyway.
Absolutely.
And the interesting thing about Daemen, one of the interesting things about Daemen that I've always believed anyway, is that it took its roots, which were with the Sisters of St. Francis, and remade itself, so to speak, into a school that could isolate and adapt to the industrial world around us. So explain a little bit about how that happened, going back a ways, even before your presidency, to really make a different place, to, as you say, distinguish itself among these 22 other schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Daemen, as you just suggested, was created in 1947 by the Sisters of St. Francis. It was a Catholic college for young women, very high quality. As you know, at that time of our history, women didn't go much to college, and so this was a very special place. A lot of the affluent families sent their women there. So it immediately had a very good reputation as a high-quality college. But around the country, those colleges that remained just the arts and science, liberal arts colleges, started to get into trouble once they got into the late 60s and early 70s if they hadn't diversified. The reason for that is that your traditional arts and sciences, biology and English and philosophy and so on, don't lead necessarily to a specific career. They prepare you for many different kinds of careers, but they don't necessarily send you down a path toward one. And so those colleges that didn't diversify started to run into trouble because students started to change. They got more career-oriented, and they wanted to go to college specifically for a particular end result. And those colleges that did not change at that time sometimes went under. And so as that Rosary Hill College is what the name of the college at that time was, started to struggle, as so many did at the time, the board made a very courageous decision. They said, well, we're going to have to take a radical step to make sure that the college thrives. And so it was decided that this would no longer be a religious affiliated college. It became a secular college with a secular president. And in effect, that measure saved the college because the new administration immediately diversified. And so not only did we have the strong arts and sciences of the past, but then we had a very strong professional wing as well. And by professional, I mean business, education, and the healthcare areas. These are areas that lead specifically to specific kinds of careers. And in fact, now, many, many years, 70 some odd years late since its beginning, Daemen is very, very well known as perhaps the premier healthcare educator in the region. Even among all those 23 colleges and universities, people know that if they want a career as a physician's assistant or as a physical therapist or athletic training or some of the others, they would be best served to go to Daemen College.
How have you connected with the medical campus and the growth of the various institutions there, particularly as it relates to the healthcare professions, as the training for that, which you just mentioned?
Well, we have a lot of partnerships. In fact, in a minute, I'd like to invite my colleague that I brought with me, Dr. Mike Brogan, who's our academic officer, a chief academic officer, to say something about that. We have many different connections with the campus, but in particular with Roswell. So we have worked very closely with them. We have a joint program or two, and we trade faculty. In fact, Dr. Brogan, would you like to say a word about the partnerships that we have there with the medical campus?
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, what happened is Daemen College pays very keen attention to regional and societal needs in general. Roswell Park is a large cancer institute here in Buffalo, and they came to Daemen College and they let us know that there is a significant problem in hiring cytotechnologists. Cytotechnologists are highly trained professionals that prepare slides of specimens so that the pathologist can then read the specimen and hopefully come up with the appropriate diagnosis. It's extremely important that cytotechnologist prepare the slide in a very expert way so that the pathologist is actually reading the tissue and seeing the cells that can make a difference of either making the appropriate diagnosis or missing it. So we worked with Roswell and we developed what we call a 4+1 program. The 4 years that the student comes to Daemen College, they take biology courses. And then the next year, they're at Roswell Park for an entire year, working right next to their cytotechnologists and their pathologists, learning the most contemporary perspectives of that profession so that the pathologist can easily read the slide, make the appropriate diagnosis. So that's an example of how Daemen College is reacting to the Buffalo-Niagara Medical Corridor and the commitment of this community to build that medical mecca, if you will, with highly trained professionals. Thus, we've developed that cytotechnology program. What we're building now is a pathology assistant program, and pathology assistant is a program, and a pathology assistant is a highly trained professional who serves the same function with a pathologist. They're trained over a 5-year period. They'll read specimens and they'll make diagnoses under the supervision of a pathologist. And what we've learned from the community hospitals and regional institutes here in Buffalo is that medical schools now have a significant problem in finding medical students who are interested in doing residencies and becoming pathologists. So now there's a shortage of pathologists, and the only way that these institutes can be staffed is to have these pathology assistants trained at a level where they can serve as the first tier pathology professional and then assist that institute in that regard. So I think 2 examples of where we're seeing needs in the medical community, we're reacting to it, developing programs, and providing professionals to move into those programs and those professions here in this region.
And so, Peter, what you're seeing, or we're hearing rather right now from Dr. Brogan, is 2 things. Number one, you're hearing some of the ways that Daemen College stands out among the others regionally, but you're also hearing how Daemen stands out nationally, because cytotechnology, for example, is a program that's very new to medicine in general. And so around the country, you're not going to find many cytotechnology programs. In fact, Dr. Brogan was at a recent conference where many of the participants were using Daemen as an example of programs they could create in their own universities. The same thing with the with this pathologist assistant program. So we're both at the same time meeting the needs of the medical community here, but also serving as an example nationwide.
This is a great interest to me because one of the things that we explore on this show regularly is how Western New York can maintain the momentum that we feel. And to some people argue that it's just a feeling, that it's not as real as we want it to be. And it's stories like this that, in my mind, make it real. And this is something that we have to continue. Things like what's going on at the Gates Vascular Institute, things that are going on more generally at Roswell, the University of Buffalo itself in terms of how they connect. But it's also schools like Daemen that are helping to distinguish Western New York nationally. And one thing that strikes me as I listen to this is that there are many communities around the country that would claim that they've got a tremendous medical infrastructure and they've got schools that they're cooperating with and they've got this great partnership going or series of partnerships going. And it makes it very, very difficult I think from a perspective of Buffalo, New York, for us to, I guess, keep ourselves relevant and on the map when there's so much competition in this field. This is one area, Dr. Brogan. How do you, as you look down the road, obviously you've got to be looking down the road, and your predecessor, Dr. Olson, your predecessors, the board itself, my own involvement, we were always trying to figure out what that next thing is, and how do you stay abreast of that so that like this cyto technology, if that's appropriate, we're on the forefront of this. How do you? That's one thing today that we've got an advantage of, but technology is duplicatable. Training is duplicatable. Another school picks up on this in a larger metropolitan area, for example, and all of a sudden we're now competing for students where we had a kind of a vacuum in our favor. How do you anticipate the next big thing?
Well, that's a good question. In fact, in a second, I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Brogan. But I will say that you're very perceptive because Daemen keeps being imitated over and over again. So we'll establish a high-quality program of this sort, and before you know it, you hear another nearby college has jumped in. So I guess they say imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and we're often flattered. But Dr. Brogan stays on top of the medical industry quite closely, and in fact, you can even tell him some of the things that are in works. Although that'll be revealing secrets, I guess, but it's okay.
Say as much as you want to say or don't want to say. But I'm more interested in the methodology, how you look down the road and you try to anticipate what the next need will be.
Yeah, it's a great question. We certainly pay attention to the literature. We look at the industry, and all the publications associated with it to see what emerging fields there are in higher education. We look to see what the societal needs are. But what we do mostly is to stay very, very close to the region and the community. We'll visit, and we have a great network with many different industries. We'll listen to what their needs are, things that they're developing, areas that they're seeing a need in, and then we'll work with them to develop a curriculum, to customize a curriculum so that a graduate will meet their needs. Another example is a program that we offer at the master's level as well in applied behavioral analysis. This is an emerging field where it's basically a bridge between education psychology and medicine. It's a professional who is trained to develop programs where other clinicians will be working with people with a behavior issue. An example would be the autistic spectrum. So you could be a physical therapist, you could be a clinician, you could be a dentist, you could be any health provider. But if you're providing care to a population that has special needs, behavior issues and so on, you could be the best clinician there is, but if you don't know how to adapt to that behavior, you're going to fail. So this applied behavior analysis program is one that has developed over the last 15 to 20 years. Daemen College was the first in this area to offer that degree program, but we listened to Summit. Summit's an agency here in Buffalo that works specifically with children and adults on the autistic spectrum. And they told us that there's a need. They have to hire people who have this particular degree, and there are so few of them that they can't. So we listened to that. We developed a master's program, and that program, we opened the doors last fall, and we have over 100 students in that program now, in residence but also online programming. So the original question, we pay very, very keen attention to the community. We have advisory boards, large network. We listen to their needs, and then we try to work with them to develop a professional that can meet those needs.
I can give you another example, Peter, if you'd like. One thing that always mystified me, being so long in higher education, is that there are so few veterinarian schools around this country. Mm-hmm. And so many young people say, I'd love to be a veterinarian. But because there are so few, it's extremely difficult to get in a slot in a school to become a veterinarian.
Not to mention the accreditation to to offer the program.
That's right. And it became so tight for a while that in the late 70s, several schools grew up in the Caribbean. So 10 to 1, if you have a vet, look at the degree on the wall. It may very well be from Grenada or St. Kitts. So it mystified me that we didn't have more opportunities here. Well, Daemen now has a unique opportunity because we have a partnership with Lincoln Memorial University in Tennessee. And so if you want to be a veterinarian and you're here in Buffalo, come to Daemen. You take your first 3 years here at Daemen, then you're automatically admitted to the Doctor of Veterinary Science degree at LMU, and you finish up in 2 or 3 years there. And so there is no other program that I know of here like this. Obviously, you could go to one of those few programs that exist, like the University of Pennsylvania, but you'll be competing literally with thousands of people for each slot.
Cornell, I believe.
And
also.
Cornell's another, that's right.
We've only got a minute left before the break. We do have a caller on the line. Let's take a quick call. This is Gustav from Williamsville. Gustav, how can we help you?
Thank you. I've read that it's hard to recruit medical people, particularly into New York State, because of the tax structure. And I'm just curious as to what percentage of your graduates end up staying in Western New York?
That's a very good question.
We have several programs in the health professions, physical therapy, physician assistant studies, and so on. What the statistics that you're interested in, we have about 70 to 75% of our students stay in this region once they graduate.
That's tremendous, and I do want to come back and talk about that because we've had your counterparts from some of the other schools on the show, and they all relate a slightly different collection of challenges, and I want to look forward and see what you think challenges are for all institutions, particularly Daemen. We'll be right back with more from our house tours after these important messages.
Hi, this is Linda Malaya, president of Hunt Mortgage. When it comes to the single biggest purchase of your life, it pays to shop around. If you think you found the best rate available for your home loan, why not let us take a second look? We'll review your rates and your terms and try to see if we can do better. And just for giving us a shot, we'll give you a $50 gift card.
Hunt Mortgage is a licensed mortgage banker, New York Department of Financial Services, and an equal opportunity lender.
Welcome back to our house. This is Peter Hunt, and this show is brought to you by the all-new HuntRealEstate.com, where everything is truly easier for your real estate and home ownership experience. I say that every week, and it's true, because every week we're constantly working on our website to make it a more, engaging experience for you and giving you what you want relative to the whole real estate and home ownership experience, which is a really vast experience. There's some 17 professionals in some way, shape, or form that will come in and out of that experience, and we want to make sure that you have access to all of that. And just yesterday at our meeting of our leadership team, we discussed the importance of building the network efficiently so the consumer is directly connected to the appropriate professional for whatever it is that they may need relative to their real estate and property or home ownership experience. And that's what we're striving to develop at HuntRealEstate.com, and I encourage you to go there today. At the very least, if you're just interested in the value of your home, ours is the only site where you've got actually 3 algorithms to choose from, and they're all there. They're automatic. Put your address in, and it will tell you not just one opinion of value based upon one algorithm, but 3. So you can, and they're all labeled, and they tell you how they, who they are, etc. It's the only place where you can do that on the web. Otherwise, you'd have to go to 3 different sites. But it gives you a really interesting cross-section of perspectives relative to your own home, or any home, by the way. It doesn't have to be your own home. So go to HuntRealEstate.com today and engage in the whole real estate experience, because it's a very, very interesting experience, particularly at this point in time. And we're going to be exploring this a little later in other shows down the road, what the competing influences are and why the inventories are low today and why they will probably be chronically low for some time to come. But you'll find access to a complete set of home ownership services I mentioned, and that is all powered by Hunt Real Estate ERA, all across upstate and even out to Phoenix, Arizona, and also through our new part of our organization in Boston, Massachusetts. That's the ERA Key Realty Services Organization, which is now part of Hunt Real Estate, and we're very happy to have them with us. So also this show is brought to you by Hunt Mortgage. I encourage you to call them today, 633-3700. You heard from Linda Malaya about the Second Look program. Also call there today and ask about that pre-purchase commitment. It's extremely valuable to the whole experience of prospecting, owning the home, and understanding what's going on out there. A general inquiry, 633-9400, gets you to the Hunt Customer Service Center, the only one of its kind in North America. Call there today about any question relative to real estate, or even call us in the studio, 803-0930. I'll be happy to help you with whatever I can here, obviously with a limited knowledge of what exactly you're going through, but call us here today. And remember, if you're driving around this weekend and you want to stop in and talk to a true professional, stop at one of our open houses and ask them about the seller security plan. It's the only one of its kind in the industry. And very simply, we will sell your home or ER will buy it. There's the only guarantee of its kind in the industry. We encourage you to find out about that today or tomorrow through our open houses, or just call the Hunt Customer Service Center. We have I think, a very special show for you today. We're talking with Dr. Gary Olson, the president of Daemen College, and Dr. Mike Brogan, who is your position. You are academic dean?
I am.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I got it right, because there's so many titles in the academic world, and I always get them wrong. So I just want to make sure I give you the appropriate credit there, Mike.
Thanks.
Prior to the break, we were talking about the kind of the connection between schools like Daemen, and Daemen in particular, and the community and the needs of the community relative to present and future employment needs, and how you remain relevant. At the same time, you have roots at Daemen College, as your competitors do, that are often deeply embedded in the liberal arts world. A candidate's looking at a school like Daemen, and they see a program like we were describing earlier, one of these very exciting new programs that are almost guaranteed to get them a job once they graduate. If you're a vet, you're going to get a job. Mm-hmm. If you're in the area of the sciences you were talking about earlier, Dr. Brogan, you're going to get a job. If you graduate from the physical therapy master's program, you're going to get a job. I mean, these are pretty much guaranteed. But if you graduate with an English degree, maybe not so much. So a candidate, a family is looking at a school like Daemen, and they're saying, well, gee, I'd love to get my kid into that program, but is it a different level of competitiveness when you receive an application, and does a student apply for a specialty within Daemen College, or do they just apply to Daemen College?
Well, let me start off, and then I can hand it off to Dr. Brogan. You're right, what you said, except one thing. You could still you still are likely to end up with a job with the college education, even in the arts and
I was only teasing a little bit. I was looking at the relative preparedness for a particular
I
job.
suspect Peter was referring to the fact that I, at one time, was an English major.
Certainly, I didn't want to poke fun at you, Gary, but maybe I will. Who knows?
But anyway, yes, because in fact, I'll say this.
We do need more English majors. I'll tell you that.
We do need people.
Better command of this language would be a great thing.
That's right. Phillips Lytle Law Firm and Buffalo Business First is sponsoring together a forum in early September where they're going to have myself, the president of UB, and some leaders from business and industry to talk about these very same issues and the relationship between higher education and what kind of workforce business and industry needs. And you still do hear business leaders saying that, number one, they want broadly educated people. So I never want to undersell the other half of higher education that exists out there, and of course at Daemen. And what you're suggesting in your question is right, which is that people can come just in general to a college like Daemen and start the first year or two, and then switch over to one of those professional programs. That is done. It is very competitive. The programs that we talked about, physician assistant, physical therapy, and so on. These are extremely in demand. So I'm constantly getting really U.S. senators and Congress people and so on call me, trustees, and say, any way you can help me get my niece into that program. And of course, I'm not going to interfere with Dr. Brogan and what he does on the academic side, but that shows you how competitive it is, because that niece or whoever is usually a high-performing student. It's just that there are lots of high-performing students wanting to get into those particular programs. But that being said, you're exactly right, Peter. Somebody could come to Daemen just as a regular student without, a declared major, do really well, and then under the right circumstances, be admitted to one of those programs. In fact, this is where Dr. Brogan probably should weigh in, since he's the expert.
Well, we've listened to the parents, and we've listened to potential students, and we've tried to design programs that really meet their needs, but give them an opportunity to find out what program is right for them. So you could come to Daemen College as an English major, you could come as a political science major, you could come as a philosophy major. You could take a program in that way and move seamlessly into a second graduate program. And here's the model. You could come to Daemen and you could follow what we call a 3-2 pattern. So for 3 years, you'd be an English major. At the end of your 4th year, you'd graduate with a degree in English. But at the end of your 5th year, you could graduate with a master's degree in social work, a master's degree in public health. So we've built very, very efficient models so that students don't have to have that burden and that fear of, will I get into this major, or is this going to be right for me? Will I get a job when I graduate? They'll have some time to work on their curriculum, work on their study skills, learn, and then move forward in 2 ways, at an undergraduate level and a graduate level.
The one of the things that a lot of families go through is the dealing with the relative prestige that's ascribed to the schools that their kids are looking at. Mm-hmm. And there's a prevailing wisdom out there among many families that they will say to their kids, we want you to go to the best school you can get into. How do you get a school like Daemen onto that radar screen, particularly given the fairly regional draw that Daemen has? I mean, we do draw nationally, but it's not necessarily somebody in Southern California may not necessarily automatically think of Daemen College on their horizon, but they'd certainly think the high-quality students you're referring to would think of Harvard or Cornell or Yale or Columbia or a school like that has enormous prestige ascribed to. How do you from your seat, Dr. Olson, how do you deal with that stuff?
Well, it's a good question. First of all, we do get people from Southern California coming to Daemen. We have students from 26 different states right now, and of course a number of countries. One thing that a lot of people don't understand about higher education, especially if you're a family that is probably the first time in college. Obviously, people from families that have had people going to college in the past are at an advantage because they know these kinds of things. Not all colleges are equal, even with some that have more name recognition. When you know in advance what you want to study, that's a huge advantage, because that way you can target what school that you want to go to. And the school may not actually be a Harvard. It may be something like a Daemen. Some schools excel in things that others don't. So, for example, if I wanted to be an engineer in the region, I probably would want to go to Rensselaer or to UB or something like that. Obviously,
Clarkson.
Yes, obviously not something like a Daemen. But you probably would not want to go to those schools, as good a schools as they are, if you wanted to be a physician's assistant. It's just because people who know where the programs are know that, oh no, for that field, I need to go to Daemen. Now, there are other places, other degrees that you wouldn't go to either of those. neither Daemen nor Rensselaer, you would go somewhere else. So what's very important, if you're going to go to college, find out what schools are the best in what you want to study.
It's interesting because many students will say at age 17 or 18 they have no clue, and in many cases they're encouraged not to have a clue at that age because, I mean, where is your head at when you're 17 or 18 years old? Unless you're one of those rare individuals that's truly focused and perhaps a prodigy or something that always wanted to do X, Y, or Z. We do have to go to break, and we'll be right back with more from Our House to Yours after these important messages.
Hi, this is Linda Malaya, president of Hunt Mortgage. When it comes to the single biggest purchase of your life, it pays to shop around. If you think you found the best rate available for your home loan, why not let us take a second look? We'll review your rates and your terms and try to see if we can do better. And just for giving us a shot, we'll give you a $50 gift card.
Hunt Mortgage is a licensed mortgage banker, New York Department of Financial Services, and an equal opportunity lender.
Welcome back to Our House. This is Peter Hunt, and this show is brought to you by the all-new HuntRealEstate.com, where everything is truly easier for your real estate and home ownership experience. And we are in the process of rebuilding the whole website again. And in the meantime, we continue to make our current website operate as efficiently and to your benefit as much as we possibly can. And the show is also brought to you by Hunt Mortgage. Hunt Mortgage is the home of the pre-purchase commitment and the second look. We encourage you, no matter where you are in the process, even if you're down the road with another lending institution, let us take a second look. And if we don't help you out, we're going to pay you. So it's not a bad little deal. So call us 633-3700 and learn more. We have a very special show for you ongoing right now, which is with the president of Daemen College, Dr. Gary Olson, and the academic dean, Dr. Mike Brogan. And we've been talking about kind of a wide range of topics relative to the college itself, and also in terms of, from a student's perspective, what they might be going through as they evaluate where to go and possible professions. One of the things that you haven't talked about is something kind of interesting that's been going on at Daemen for some time, and that's the animation.
Oh yes,
and that's way afield from the health sciences. Yet there the school isolated a need, and certainly how's that program going?
It's going well. I'm glad that you brought that up because Daemen isn't just about healthcare. It's just that we're very proud of those. I mean, we have very good business programs, accounting, and so on. We have others, but animation is one of those standout programs. And as you know, now with the way movies work and videos and video games and so on, animation is everywhere. And animation isn't just cartoons. Mm-hmm. Animation sometimes is used within the framework of serious movies even. And it's the sister program to that is visual effects. And visual effects is everywhere. And so we have expertise in that and a very good program out of our, and now we're on the other side of the house in Daemen College, out of our arts department. And it's very popular. It's a very rigorous program, and people in that program get a 4-year degree and then have the kind of expertise that they can go out and work for any number of different kinds of concerns that has a need for animation. In fact, Mike, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, we're very proud of the animation program. It's doing very well. And the visual effects program is something that we've integrated into animation. We not only offer the bachelor's degree, but we also offer, we call it a value-added extension. Students at Daemen College can be taking any program, but if they wish to take a certificate in visual effects, they can take 5 courses in that area and learn that trade while they're working on their program. But it gives them something very different to work on and see things through a different lens and so on. So the program is growing, and there's a lot of interest not only in those who want to be in that industry, but also those who want to see the industry through a different lens. We've just recently brought in a new director last year, Michael Jones, who's out of Los Angeles, and he has an incredible profile along with him. He's worked on many major motions and TV shows and things of that nature. So he's really gained a lot of attention in this area. He's established a wonderful network and the program. And Peter, you've been very instrumental in developing that program a few years ago, and we're appreciative of that. And it certainly has taken seed and is growing.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what the visual effects part is, if everybody is familiar with Photoshop for photos, where you can take somebody's photo and you can take somebody's head and put it on your head on the photo and so on, or doctor it up, or take the wine glass out of somebody's hand. Well, visual effects is sort of the same thing, but for video. And any movie you see now, any television show, anything nowadays has some kind of visual effects that have been in there. Sometimes they just erase they'll have Ford trucks, but Ford hasn't given them money on the movie, so they'll just take the little Ford logos off. You name it, it's everywhere. So not only is animation an important part of these kinds of production, but so is visual effects.
You know, there's so much we could talk about here today about higher education and how the direction it's going. But the mission of the show is to help our listeners protect and enhance their investment in real estate here in Western New York. How does Daemen contribute to the economic environment here in a broad sense? Obviously, we've looked at various programs in terms of training people to help expand certain industries here, but talk about the more general effect of the college.
Yeah, that's a great question, and you know, I sometimes think that some people in the region don't recognize what a unique area we have with all these colleges and universities. It's clear to anybody with a big university like UB that that's a huge economic impact. We've got the medical corridor. We've got people, coming up with cures of diseases and so on. But, take a small college like Daemen. We're a little under 3,000 students instead of 29,000. A lot of the other privates are about the same or smaller. But take that college. Daemen College, 3,000 students. We have an economic impact of about $130 million a year in this region. So that's with wages, with taxes, with and remember, when Dr. Brogan hires a new faculty member, he's hiring a highly educated person, usually with a PhD,
usually from out of town,
to come here and probably 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, that person is bringing a spouse, equally highly educated, probably isn't in higher education, is in some other industry. They establish a home, they're paying taxes, and he hires every year many such people. So the economic impact of even a school the size of Daemen College is really huge. People really need to understand that.
I couldn't agree more, because every time we add a new citizen, especially a highly educated, well-trained individual and their family to come to our region here, the impact is a ripple effect. And every time we lose one of those people, as our caller indicated, for whatever reason, taxes, regulation, or whatever the case might be, or a job opportunity someplace else, it's a real blow to our community. And it's institutions like Daemen that with the vitality that exists there, as well as your counterparts, that keeps this place, in my mind, a very interesting place to be. We've got about 6 minutes left, and I'd just like you to talk a little bit about the impact of Daemen on the overall momentum in our community. We've talked specifically about various programs, and obviously expand on that if you'd like. But what I'm very interested in seeing here, we can't change what happens in Albany. We can't change what happens in New York City. These are powerful negative or positive influences depending on your point of view. But we can do something about what happens right here in terms of the attractiveness, the livability, the comfort, the opportunities in our own community. So freewheel a little bit on how you see Daemen evolving in within the context of the momentum that we all feel here in Western New York.
Right. Well, I'm one of those people that believes that Buffalo is really going through a renaissance. I know that not everybody believes that, but I do. I think it's an exciting time to be in Western New York, and in particular in Buffalo. There's a lot of construction downtown, a lot of apartment areas are going up. We see more and more development. And the mayor told me not long ago that there are more and more people coming back to Buffalo. We at Daemen feel that same kind of excitement. It's a great time to be here. And I think that there's a symbiotic relationship between the growth in the city and the growth at the college. If you think about it, if you're trying to attract wonderful people, talented people to the area, even if they're not going to do anything in higher education, having the proximity of quality colleges nearby and having the proximity of the kinds of arts that we have with Kleinhans and the Philharmonic and so on, these are major attractors. Think of all the communities around this country that don't have any of that.
That would die for something.
They would die for something like that. And here we are, multiple colleges, multiple kinds of venues for art and so on, in the broadest sense, but both visual and performing and so on. And this is a wonderful place to move to. And the sad thing for me, having come here from many other states and now just loving it, is that Buffalo gets such a bad rap around the country. At the time when I was coming here, I was living in, of all places, Idaho. And when I announced I was coming to Buffalo, the response was, "Oh my God, how are you going to deal with those winters?" And I was in Idaho.
Idaho, of all places.
Of all places. Yeah. So we don't have bad winters here. I'm from New England, and we don't have bad weather. But everybody around the country thinks so. So to the extent that we can point out all the great things with the arts, with these colleges, and all the other things, Niagara Falls, the kinds of tourist attractions, and the cost of housing, what you've done, Peter, and being able to provide really quality housing to people that come here and real good value. I mean, this is invaluable. All of that together ought to be together a package that brings lots of people to this region.
Well, certainly we're proponents of that, and I greatly appreciate your perspective, Dr. Olson, and yours too, Mike. I mean, you've seen other places. You know what it's like not to be in Western New York, and what always amazes me is when people leave and then come back, how kind of humbled they are to be back in our community. They see a different kind of perspective. Having said all that, we do have I hate those two words because they're so imprecise. We do have many influences that really cause people to make decisions against Western New York, either when they're looking to move a business here, buy something here, invest here, or when they achieve a certain level of success, they then say, well, I can't afford to stay here, or worse yet, and this is a terrible thing to say, to die here because of the taxes implied through that process if you have considerable assets. Now, I don't want to get into that. We only got a minute left, and I don't want to end on a downer. I want to end on a positive note. And what I'd like you to just comment on, either you, Mike, or Gary, really give us a 2-3 year perspective out for Daemen, quick.
Well, I'd start by saying Daemen is more and more becoming a graduate institution. The programs we've been talking about, physician assistants and so on, these are mostly graduate programs. Not that we're not going to be an undergraduate program, but the uniqueness that we have, all of the niche programs that set us apart, not only on the regional area, but quite literally nationally, are graduate. And we have a number in the pipeline that Dr. Brogan is working on right now. So I predict that we'll be more and more bringing high-quality people to our graduate programs. Mike, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I'd agree that we have 13 programs that we've done all the feasibility studies on, and we've gone through discovery. Now we're building the curriculum. We're looking at those programs. We believe they'll be very, very successful. And to borrow a military term, I think Daemen College is proud and ready. We're preparing ourselves for the future, and we know we'll graduate people who will meet the future.
Dr. Mike Brogan, Academic Dean, Daemen College, thanks for being with us this morning. Dr. Gary Olson, President, Daemen College, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Peter.
I'd like to thank all of our listeners for being with us this morning, and we'll be back next week at the same time. I will not be here. I'm going to be away for next weekend. I'm going to be here. I'm actually going over to Italy to the Venice Biennale to where the University of Buffalo School of Architecture has been one of 32 schools invited to display there, and it's one little adventure I'm going to be going on, but that's down the road a little bit. But I want to thank our listeners for being with us. We will be back in next week and every week, and when it comes to real estate, all of upstate New York is Hunt Country.